Hey, Duke Quantum update. So it's been a minute. Duke Quantum is basically an applied research lab working in quantum computing for undergraduate students like myself. You have many teams that work on different things, whether it's quantum error correction or some quantum financial stuff. And in my case, we have my team, which is like Quantum Apex, QApex, if you will. And we're basically looking to optimize the plasma industry from the collection stage to the distribution stage. Actually, that's not true. That's excluding processing because processing is very legal, very long, 8 to 9 months, a bunch of papers you have to account for, a bunch of legal stuff. So I'm not doing that, just collection and distribution. The issue though is that we were originally at the beginning of the year, we originally scoped it down to collection because collection is easier and we wanted to start off with something to get the ball rolling because when you go into distribution there's more stuff you have to fact account for, right? So we're doing well with that. We had some code up and running and we were in a good spot, but then a good point was made when we did like the whole Duquana meeting, like not just our mini team. And a good point was made that the key stakeholders really lie in that distribution stage because like you have the collection, you have the individual donor centers, right? For plasma, and then there's obviously like need for like to optimize because like you have like a good stat here. I think the study was from the NIH or something or some other research study, but like 60 for donor blood collections it plateaus at 66%. So that means like it's not operating at full efficiency. So that means you have like some machines that aren't being used when they should be used, right? So stuff like that. So there's an opportunity to optimize it, but then in terms of how much they actually really care to do that, that's questionable. But when it comes to like the actual distribution stage where you have groups, like very big groups, there is a lot of opportunity to like, oh, there's a lot of interest in optimizing that process to make sure they're selling to the right people at the right times and everything like that. Um, so that's what we're going to encompass for now. It's a shift we made last weekend to this week. Like we finally confirmed it this week. I think what I worry about though is that sometimes with sometimes with our project, it feels like we make a couple steps forward, like a very hard steps forward, and then make a big step back, right? Like that's kind of like undoes the work. I think that my issue is that that's fine and then like that's like something I expect will work like this, but the issue is that it's a matter of momentum. Like once you lose momentum, it's hard to get it back because then it becomes like this thing of like endurance, and then you have to like say how much endurance do we have as a team, right? Because that's something you have to account for. And if you lose momentum, you lose on progress, you lose success, and once you lose that like that then goes into like losing more momentum to the point where it just all falls apart, right? I don't want that to happen. So that's why I was really worried when we had to do a kind of a scope back, like we had to look into distribution as well because like okay now we have to take a step back before we even like start running on quantum computers. um but I think it's nice. I think the issue that when I reflect on it, I think the issue that was um holding us back and making us move slow is that we overcomplicate stuff. I think as sometimes we it's a bit murky in terms of okay, do we want to get this done or do we want to learn how to get this done? Because like those are two very different things. Like to get something done, that's like you get it done versus like if you want to learn, then it becomes like a class situation. Like okay, we all rotate, we all do this and all that, and that's not the most efficient approach sometimes. I think right now we're in a position where, at least for me personally, we're behind on my schedule. Right, I don't want that to be the case. So, as a team, we've kind of pushed more so towards like, okay, we're just going to push forward and like we're going to expect to learn, but it's not going to be the goal. We're not going to be doing like a class project here, right? So, instead of having like everyone work like instead of having too many hands in the kitchen just for learning sake, it's going to be one person on one task. So right now, we have two deliverables working for the spring break. One is to encompass the distribution variables because it's like a whole thing where you have to have like a unified objective that you can actually use like qubos on to basically find the most optimal way to the most optimal situation, right, for this complex situation, the complex situation that's plasma distribution and collection. So my goal right now is to get that the variables for distribution, set that up, make sure I actually have the proper probability distribution something happens and all of that. And the other deliverable is the unified objective itself to actually like take everything together and say, okay, this is how we're actually going to optimize it, right? Because like, you have all these variables, but you have to have it in a function. So that's the one of my friends, he's going to be working on that. And then we're planning to have that done by Wednesday so we can do a full team meeting to get back on track and say, okay, this is working, this isn't working, let's go from here. Right, and this differs from what we'd usually do, where we would have like three people working on unified objective, three people working on the variables. And I think the reason why this new approach is better is because like obviously like what I said before, like where it's like, oh, you actually get it done versus learning. But also I feel like when you have more people in a group, it actually kind of like limits the progress. Like it limits the initiative someone takes. Because when it's like, oh, there's three people, do I initiate, do we meet, or do I wait for this person to do this? When it's just you, that means it's your responsibility. And if you don't show up, that means you kind of let the team down, you let yourself down, and all that. I think that pushes more initiative because like you have more ownership of your task versus sharing like 33% ownership with two other people. Um, but that's all I have to really say. I'm excited. I'm excited. I hope to get it done. I think Saturday or Sunday, and go from there. Besides that, I have nothing else to say. So have a great day.